Hello, everyone. It's Lindsay Landry, and today I am here with Kaira, and we're going to be talking all about vision, creativity, and cash. So, all of these go together when you are creating your business and really wanting to make a splash in the online space. And I'm super excited to be talking with Kaira today. She has over 15 years of experience as a project planner in the corporate world, and she's brought that experience into the online space, and she's also an artist and has has a gift for really tapping into the creative mind and using those pieces to help move forward your business, but also keep, some of the pieces that we might feel like are logical or businessy, like to keep them fun and creative. And I'm just super excited to be talking with her today about this. So, Kaira, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and say a little bit about your business?
Sure. Thank you, Lindsay, first for having me. I'm excited to chat a little bit today. So as you said, my name is Kaira, and it is spelled a little different with that I in there. So the pronunciation always is a good icebreaker and a creative way to start my conversation. So I thank my mom for that. But I am, like you said, gosh, the 15 years just kind of made me shaking my boots a little bit because when I started this online stuff, it was only 12 years. And so I've been doing this for three, some of it simultaneously. So I was like, wow, she's right, 15 years now. But yeah, so I think all of my life I've been the organizer and kind of planner and things like that. Even for my family at home, I was always the one that was rearranging the kitchen and all the stuff in the kitchen, cleaning up after, there's, I have a brother and sister, mom and dad, and sometimes we had foster children, and I was always putting things away and trying to rearrange things and planning what we were doing for our vacations and stuff like that. So that has always kind of come naturally, but I'd never thought that it would be my career, especially in the corporate world, because I was always kind of afraid of the corporate world. I was in small schools and high school and small colleges, and actually tried to focus a little bit more on the creative side in that. So my undergrad was therapeutic recreation, which was working with people. It originally started when they came home, when the soldiers came home from war and had to get reintegrated into society, and so there's ways to do that in a fun way, right, in a creative way. Instead of just sending them to a restaurant, you had to just first take them outside and let them be comfortable, like with car backfires and things like that. So I think, though I don't use that degree hand in hand, I think a lot of that pairs with what I do with the online world and small business owners in general, as far as doing the things that you have to do, but figuring out a way and meeting with them wherever they are to get them to where they want to be. And a lot of that takes creativity. So I do that, and that creativity is beyond the paintbrush, but as you can see, I'm in my, office studio, and so there's some paintings on the easel and some on the wall. But there is a lot of it that is done on, canvas and with the paintbrush and things like that, as far as allowing me to refocus myself, and then I can offer obviously similar activities for clients or people that are getting stuck in creativity to move into that. So I think I'm kind of going around the circle, but hopefully you're getting a picture of how I am able to take really big budgets with really small, smaller timelines, small resource staff, like in my corporate career, and we still get there, right? We still make the goals and meet it. There's some hiccups along the way, risks and things, but I'm able to see those, and again, creatively figure out where they are. And a lot of it starts with a vision, right? So I have to take whatever vision has been dreamt up or sold, in my case, in the day job world, and then work back from that, right? And figure out how to meet that with the limited resource budget, timeline and things that we have. And so it ports very well to our entrepreneurial world, where we are usually bootstrapping in the beginning. We have, limited knowledge maybe about all the things that are out there. And a lot of my job has been in the project planning world with technology. And so creating systems or implementing systems to automate things and make it a little bit better, which again helps out in the online world. So there's a really good overlap, and all that experience is not for waste, but I bring it over into the business I have today.
Beautiful. I love it. And I think it's really so important, because whether you are just starting out your business and wanting to work towards a dream or a vision that you have, or if you're at a place of wanting to scale and expand, sometimes you really do need to get creative so that you can stay in the flow, because we talked about this a little bit last week. But sometimes when we pull out the word plan or strategy, there's a way that like we totally go into that masculine energy, and then we can cut off our creativity, or even like we become disconnected from our passion. And I don't know if you want to just, before we totally go in and start talking about the business pieces, do you want to just share that part of your story about how you even started to step into being an entrepreneur? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, so I think it's always been a goal, just because I saw my dad and how he owned his own business, and with that came extreme flexibility. Even in college, I played sports and field hockey in college, and he would drive the 4 hours there to see the game, take me and some friends out to dinner, and then drive home, right? Because he had that flexibility. And there was other times when I was younger, we would be on vacation and he'd stay up later past us going to sleep so he could get a little work done and send it back to the office or something like that. So that flexibility and that freedom to do basically whatever he wanted. And there are some times that he had to make choices, but I always kind of knew that that's what I want. Like, I want my life to be that way. But I fell into the traditional trap of going to college. I even got my master's. And then I was like, well, I can't keep talking bad about corporate America. I better try it out, right? And so I tried it out, and I've been kind of stuck there ever since. I did take a little break where I was a full-time, just an entrepreneur for a while, but then popped back in just to complete some of my Sunday goals. And what I mean by Sunday goals are, the specific one just recently was to purchase a home for my family. It was a lot easier for me to go back into my career in the corporate world and get the money that we needed and all of the mortgage paperwork and satisfy all that. It was just easier to do that. And so that was a choice that I made. And what I mean by Sunday goals is when I was 33, which now is seems like a lifetime ago. It's almost 6 years ago. I have a birthday next week. But when I was 33, I had met all of my goals, right? I had those degrees. I had a house at that time. I had my daughter, husband, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, well, I've completed all this. Why do I not feel great about it? Like, there's got to be something. And so I had someone ask me, well, besides your career and besides your family, what brings you joy? And that was such a pivotal question because I could not answer them. And I'm usually really good at answering any question. So I thought, oh man, why can't I answer this question? Like, I'm 33, that's not okay. Like, we're so not over in the world. Like, I'm not. So did some self-discovery, went to a therapist, had life coaching sessions, and really, got back into my creativity, because that's one thing that I let go, right? I was not painting. I was not trying new techniques. I made a lot of jewelry. None of that stuff was going anymore. And I was like, and I was traveling for that job. And so I was gone from 6 a.m. until 6 at night or whatever. And we were in a new place, and so I wasn't meeting new people either. And I was like, so I, tried to do some more of that. And I just really realized that I had just put myself on pause and said, well, Sunday I'll get to the things that I want to do. Sunday, I'll feel better. Sunday, after this season is over. But then I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. And so that's how I became the Sunday Eradicator, because I wanted to not only help myself, but other people work towards those Sunday goals today. And even if it's as minimal as journaling about what that Sunday goal is, because that will get things going. I encourage that, right? So there's definitely something that we can all do towards that Sunday goal. And, for me, like, it's been art. So I've been in my first juried art show. I, have bought this house. What else have I done? I feel like I've done a lot. I've gone traveling. Like, I did a retreat last summer with women that I never even knew before, but I did it, and I did some adventures. Like, we did paddleboarding, which I loved. I've gone skydiving. Like, there's just like lots of things that I've included and been able to add more and in my life. And that's really what this is all about. Like, when it comes back to me supporting, creating a project plan for somebody, it's because I know that it will support them in getting their Sunday goal today, instead of, just being like, I don't know how to get there. We get there together.
Totally. Yes. I love that so much because, last week we had some comments in the group about when you start moving towards, goals or planning, and it can start to feel kind of boxy, and, we can get into that logical space. And I think that's such an important piece, because then we just feel like we're going through the motions. And so even if we're meeting our goals, like you did, right? Like, you had all the things you wanted, but it still felt like there was something missing, and you wanted to fill that gap. And I think for entrepreneurs, it's easy to sometimes we get caught up in the systems of doing things other people's ways. And so that piece of connecting back to the creativity and connecting back to yourself, I think, is so, so important, and something that you're also so good at helping people tap into. So
Definitely.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the vision piece. So maybe first, what if, so when people come to you, usually do they have a vision, or is it like they know they want something and they're not quite sure what it is yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was kind of figuring out that for myself, right? Because I'm in a season where I'm going to do some market research for, next things that I'll be delivering. And I was like, well, who am I talking to, right? Do they come with a vision, or do they, like you said, they're kind of feeling something, but they can't quite put their finger on it? And I think it is both, because some people come, and actually this has happened more often than not. So it might be leaning more towards this way, that people have a vision. They know that I'm one to get it done, and get it done with everything else that's going on in their life. And so they come to me to help, get that solidified, get that plan, and get that figured out. But then we get to talking, and they realize how holistic I am, right? As far as, we don't put our blinders on and just do business, right? That's not what it's about. This is everything we're doing, right? So then we get to talking, and we really get to the root of what their vision really is, right? And whether, a lot of times it's just a shift, but sometimes it's a 180, right? And so I am able to support them in getting to that and clearing that out. And I mean, I just had a testimonial last week where, in one of my challenges that I did, she kind of had these things that she thought she should be doing, and stuff like that. But what the challenge offered for her was that space and those questions and those prompts to figure out what it really was for her. And just by claiming that was one thing. And then the second, then we created the plan towards it afterwards. And that just, oh my gosh, like, it just totally, I think I had a perma smile for like 3 days after that testimonial, because that's the purpose, is that we want to get really clear on that vision. And that vision might be, broad, but a lot of times it is much more manageable than we think.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because I've kind of been at both places in my own business where I've had a really big vision that might have felt, oh my God, like, how could I ever move forward towards that? And then also the type of vision that you're talking about, where it's like, okay, I have an idea that I'm wanting to do something with, but it's still not completely whole. So are there any like tips that you'd want to give anybody watching that is in really either of those places? I know it's kind of a drastic jump, but just to start getting in motion towards what they're feeling, or towards what the possibility, their someday goal.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, so I just talked about blinders. I think, the second step is to put on some earmuffs, right? And I know sometimes the earmuffs is, earmuffs are against our own inner voice sometimes, and it's not our inner voice that's, propelling us forward, but the one that's protecting us that we sometimes have to shut out a little bit. But the earmuffs allows you to hear that inner voice instead of what my husband thinks I should do, or what my daughter, or what my day job might want me to do, or my parents, or all of these influences, or what all the other online coaches are doing, or all the web designers, they're all using Squarespace now, so I got to go do that. Cutting that out and really being still and listening to that and allowing yourself that space to do that. Like, that was one of the hardest things for me to do, right? Because I was just go, 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 extrovert, type A, check this off this list, check this off that list. And then when that list expired, that's when like I felt like things kind of imploded, right? So because I was, that was the list also kind of covering off of what the traditional things were to do, right? So we need to look at that list from what is going to make us most happy and things like that, and turn off the edit filter, right? So just because you want to, like, for example, my first kind of entrepreneurial job was to clean up parking lots at my, my dad's office and all the buildings that he had and things like that. Like, that was my first thing. Well, if you have a someday goal of, being, a cleanup person or whatever, like, and you're like, well, there's no way that I can make money, like, that's all the edits that need to be quieted in order for you to pull this forward. So that's kind of like the biggest thing, and allowing yourself to think beyond, whatever it is that you have now. So like for me, since I have my corporate career still, and I've, been straddling the fence a little bit with it, it is hard for me sometimes to think of all the desires I have for my business, right? Because I'm like, well, look, you're doing really well now, you're doing this, that's another edit and filter that I personally have to cut off in order for me to continue my business so that I can impact more people. Because in my corporate career, you'd have to dig pretty deep in order to see the people that I'm actually, impacting, versus in my business. I mean, those people are day to day, with just free content or, actual clients and things like that. So, don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I think the tips are to, you hear it all the time, to get quiet and meditate, and meditate doesn't mean you have to say any mantras or anything like that, but it's just like really allowing yourself that time, space, and quiet, and shutting out all the noise to hear what's coming through.
Totally. And so two things I want to say. One is a conversation we had recently, but the first thing that I want to say is you mentioned how you were your first entrepreneurial thing was like cleaning the parking lot, and how sometimes when we're doing those little bridge jobs or even just getting started, it can feel like how am I ever going to make money doing this, or it's not paying the bills, or I still have so much debt. And I feel like it really is so important to put our earmuffs on to that, like you were saying. I know for me that was a hiccup along my way, like especially in the beginning of my journey in expanding my business, because even if you're bringing in, like, say I remember like I'd sell 5 sessions and I was like, oh my God. And I still have all of this, on my credit card. Like, it felt like it wasn't even putting a dent. But I think just knowing that it's like you are getting where you're going. So like receiving each of those steps is so important. And then the other thing that comes to me as you're just, sharing these pieces is the conversation we had a couple days ago about like when you're in the middle of an art project, like it's messy, so which was funny because you were tie-dyeing and you were like, oh, my hands are actually stained.
Yep.
But I think
there were gloves, but I didn't put them on, right? Because I was just supposed to help my daughter, and it just became this whole thing.
And so like growing our business is the same way, right? So sometimes we want to be like to the vision, but actually like the process to get to the finished painting or the finished product, it is messy. Like you might get your hands dirty, or you probably will. You might get paint on the floor. You might, like, so I think that's super important. Having a lot of grace with yourself along the way, so that it's not just like all of a sudden you have the finished product. There's a lot that goes into it before there. Like you say, like there's so many layers to a painting, and it's like the same thing with being an entrepreneur and growing even an offer or a class. There's like so many layers to it. It's not just, boom, done.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought the layers piece, because that is very important. And that's why I think, people come to me kind of with that, what they think is their vision or their problem that they want to solve or whatever. And then we dig around in some of the layers, which is what I had to do, right, to get to my Sunday goals and bring that light back up. It's the same for them, and it is just like the art project. And there's some things that still shine through from that very bottom layer, but sometimes we cover them up and it's okay. Like, and all of my pieces start with writing, whether it's intentions about the piece or just something I'm working through, like processing. It all starts with those words or just lines and just marks that just need to get out of here, or here, even in the heart, and get onto something else. And then again, they may stay messy and still show through, or, they could be covered up. And, as we move through the process and get to that, final piece or vision.
Beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit more about the creativity piece. And we had a couple questions about when you are like going, moving towards your goals. Sometimes there can be pieces where it starts to feel stagnant, or you start to feel like even pressured sometimes, So is there any tips that you want to share around tapping back into your creativity and, getting out of the logic?
For sure. So one of the easiest ones I think to do is take something that you do routinely and do it out of order or in a different way. And that could be something as simple as the way that you drive your child to school every day, or the way you drive to the gym every day, or something like that. Take a different route. Like that will rearrange the brain cells and the things so that your focus, one, gets switched, but it also allows you to see new patterns, right? And to see new ways of doing things. And it's inviting that in order for you to, get back to the actual project or whatever it is. And be able to solve it faster and get through it faster if it's a sticking point, than just staring at your computer screen and seeing that. And, or you can listen to your dog bark, sorry. And that will get you, unstuck, because you'll be frustrated with your dog. So the other thing is just, if you're writing, like a good prompt for that is if you're writing and you're stuck and you just cannot figure out what to write next, write whatever you see, right? So right now, like I could write about the taking risks poster in the back, or I could write about the dog barking and how annoying it is, and like getting that frustration out. And then it, like, I mean, 100 times out of 100, you then end up writing about the topic that you wanted to write about, right? But you just had to get it going and get the flow going and things like that. And so that really helps as well. And then the other thing is to take a magazine article or something else, someone else has written or something like that, and add to it, right? So they put a foundation down, and now you add it and change it to something else. And take on my dog, if it's not too loud. And then the last thing too is when you're getting dressed, like I think this kind of goes back to the first one, but like if you normally wear a certain pair of shoes or gold accessories, like this time why don't you try silver or try a different pair of shoes, like, or something like that with your outfit. So it doesn't have to be a grand scheme thing, but that helps a lot. And then the last one is taking a walk, taking a break, getting away from it. I know that's counterintuitive. You're like, no, but I got a deadline, I got to get this done. But that break will give you back the time that, just sitting there being frustrated is taking away.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like those are so so good, and I know that it really is like when we can change that pattern. And then you mentioned about like writing what you see or what you know is true for that moment, and I really love that because sometimes when we get so caught up in the spinning thoughts, it's like if we can just start connecting back to what we know is true. So even if it's like my shirt is white, my computer is here, like whatever it is, but like when we can connect back to what we know is true, it's like we're grounding ourselves, and we're coming back to this moment, and we're anchoring in. And that is ultimately, the more grounded we are, the more connected we can be to ourselves, and then the more we can allow our truth to start flowing out. So I love those so much.
Good. I'm sorry. I will type them out for everybody underneath the video in case the dog is too loud.
And so one of the last things that I just want to chat a little bit about, we had a few questions from last week, and since, planning out projects is sort of your expertise, I'd love to let you answer those. So some people asked, how far out in advance do you want to plan or even map out a vision? Do you have any suggestions around that?
Oh yeah, sorry to cut you off. So I think, there is, more specifically, you want to be in the 90-day range. Like that's where a lot more specifics come in, right? But you want to be a little bit more broader on your 6-month vision, right? And that kind of planning. And then you have a year, look out, and then, possibly 3 or 5 years, depending upon. So those are much higher level. Like the further away you are, the higher level it is. The closer you are, the more details you would want in your plan. Right. So, and depending upon, how long it is to get your vision out there, if we're talking online, right. So, 2 to 3 months is usually good. And that's that 90-day window, right, of getting something out there to the world, especially if it's like a paid program or course or something like that. If, on the other hand, if it's something a little bit smaller, like a challenge or a book club or something that doesn't, require as much, and it's more on kind of inviting people into your space and getting them to know you and things like that, that obviously doesn't need as much lead time for that. But yeah, I definitely think it's good to remember that the sooner the vision is, the more specific you need to be, and the longer out the vision is, the more high level you can stay.
Beautiful. And I just want to add to that because I know this was something that totally helped me when I was moving forward in my journey. But one of my coaches had shared with me that sometimes the action that you're doing today, it could take 60 days to see results from that.
Mm-hmm. True.
And so and like, yeah, so if you have a big vision of, like, I know a big one for me, I've talked about it a ton, but like, I just had this vision of wanting to do my Reiki program as like a 3 or 4 month program. And so that was such a big thing for me, like when I had the vision. And so when somebody has a vision like that, that feels like really scary. Is there any, for them to like get started today, like, is there any suggestions or any points that you have for them?
I think they, like, it's best to write down what's scary about it, right? So is it, because then you can define, because I'm kind of literal as well, for as much abstract as in creative, you can define if it's a true fear. Like if you're afraid of getting enough people to sign up for it, for example, that's a true fear, and that's something we can do, do something about, right? With planning, right? So it's like, okay, well, how many times are we going to share? How many times, what do we need to do in our mindset? Like, does it need to pop on your phone a couple of times a day about how excited you are, or, how you're looking, how you're welcoming 5 people to this program or whatever it is. So, and that's what I'm saying is like, there's even those pieces of my plans that, I help my clients with. But so if it's a literal, if it's a truly founded fear, there's something we can do about it. Now, if you're writing it down and it's not something, that's really, that would take a lot of things going the wrong way for it to happen, then we know that it's not so founded, but you got it out of your brain, right? Because you wrote it down, you acknowledged it, and you're moving forward. So I think those are the best ways, to cut down that monkey chatter, to help with the, the earmuffs and things like that and getting that out. And then also it will help you spurn on some action plan or add to your plan to ensure that the fears that you could be possible are taken care of.
I love that. And I love the define piece because, sometimes it really is fear. And then sometimes it's a fear like kind of blended in with intuition. So, it could be fear, and then it also could be some actual truth of, well, like you need to grow your list, or you need to, like, there might be action steps. Like, so defining like, okay, so yes, there is some fear, and what actually needs to be done for you to get to the confidence. So I love that you spoke to that, because I think that's a really big piece. And, so offering the class in 1 month, if there's a ton of fear, might not be the best plan. But if you could say, let's shoot for 3 months, and we could always pivot if need be, if like we're not, hitting that mark. And then it allows, whoever's working towards the goal, it allows you to be confident and like, it's like building that muscle.
For sure. Yep.
Beautiful. So any last tidbits or pieces of wisdom that you want to share today with any of our watchers?
I think that there's 2 things. One, creativity isn't a bad word, and it is definitely something that we all have, right? Yes, there are some that have practiced that muscle more, and so it comes to them naturally. But creativity is, I do believe that we are all creative, resourceful, and whole, right? And so all of those things help us to get where we want to be, right? Creative, resourceful, and whole. And so, anytime that you can try something creative or something that will build that muscle, but it also will, just enlighten you, in whatever you're going through, in that day. I mean, even if it's taking a photograph of something when you're on a walk that just really struck you, just that's creative, and that's experience, expressing your creativity. And then the other thing too is that, a project plan is not a boring, mean, bad word either. I agree. Like, I've gone through phases where I'm like, oh my gosh, project plans for the rest of my life, da da da. But they really are keys and tools to success, and they can, you can have fun with them. They don't have to be in a spreadsheet. They don't have to be, they can be mind maps. They don't have to be down to the nth degree, detail. But if you have a team, that's probably smarter. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time communicating. Well, what does this task mean? And, why do I have to do that? Or, where does it fall in this pattern? And, as far as, the sequence of things that need to get done. So I just think, opening your mind to creativity and the fact that a project plan really is a tool for you to get to where you want to go is probably my parting words.
Beautiful. And if anyone is wanting to connect with you, can you tell them how they can find you?
Sure. We do have a group of Sunday Eradicators in Facebook, if that is something that you're interested in, as far as getting support and motivation, inspiration, as well as tips to move towards your Sunday goal. We have that, and it is called Sunday Eradicators. I also have a website. My business is called Kaira Inc., but you can also get to it at kaira.boston.com. And I think those are the main things. I do really have fun with Instagram too, as you can imagine, because of the creativity. And I use a lot of, not a lot, but I'm using more of my artwork as the under painting of, some of my social media items. So Instagram is Sunday underscore eradicator or Kaira underscore Boston. So I'm kind of all over. And then, private message me, whatever. I'll be glad to connect.
Beautiful. Thank you so much again for talking with me today and sharing all of your wisdom. And if anyone has any questions, you can always also tag either one of us in the group, and I'm sure she's happy to answer them there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lindsay, for this opportunity. It was so much fun.
Bye.